I have a feeling in Taurus season, there are going to be a lot of times where we're at 50% or below. And that it doesn't feel good for me to show up to work at 50% or less, because then I know that what I'm there to give is not even half as good as I could give when I am on. And that means that we get to learn. If we don't let this block us from really experiencing that opening to the feminine, which is allowing yourself to lay down. I just keep seeing the Taurus as the bull laying in like a field of flowers and just being so peaceful and at peace and peaceable toward others. I mean, just like peace, peace, peace all around. If we don't allow that for ourselves, we are going to be responsible. You are going to be responsible for the one blocking yourself out of second guessing, out of gaslighting yourself, telling yourself that what you're feeling isn't really there or isn't really true or isn't as important as other people's needs, which is what the only thing that you're taking into account when you push yourself and you force yourself to be somewhere where you know you're not supposed to be, or you can't give your all while you're there. So now it is time for the goddesses to give their final say, give their final word on this one, and give us that extra little bit of advice for our head, our heart, and our home spaces that hopefully will be the thing that when you walk away from this reading, you can remember these words and use them to guide you, use them to even provoke you out of that cycle of thinking and overanalyzing, and come back to permission, giving yourself permission to be where you're at while you're there, because it doesn't last forever. Again, with that foreverness, nothing lasts forever. And if you're giving yourself permission to do something a certain way one day, doesn't mean that you're going to need it tomorrow or in the next moment after you've given yourself that permission. I think, and I'm going down this path right now before I get into these, because I think what our perfectionism, productivity, conditioning has told us is, if you give yourself permission to be lazy one time, then you're going to be a permissible parent to yourself, which is to say that you won't have any discipline, you won't have the drive or the commitment or the focus to show up and do the thing in the future. If you do it once, then you're going to do it forever. If you ask for what you need one time, then that means people are always going to look at you, the person that you ask for that permission to just go home and just chill for a whole day, that person is going to look at you like you're lazy or like you're not committed. Or you see where I'm going with this? So there is a different kind of perfection that we can experience when what we give ourselves in the moment when we need it is exactly what the moment calls for. Knowing that there are going to be many, 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 many other moments in our lives, and we will not need the same thing in every other moment. I want you to take that and remember that. at the time that you need your permission, because it's gonna come. You're gonna need some permission, and you're gonna have to give it to yourself, because you're the only one who can do that. So, words from the goddesses. Artemis is saying that in our heads, we need to think realistically. Clarify and simplify your plans and communications to keep misunderstanding to a minimum. Expect and be able to live with imperfection and occasional failure. Worry can be overcome if you focus on past successes, not past failures. Obsessive behavior must be seen as a threat to attaining your goal. That's the line that we needed to hear. I'm going to read it again. Obsessive behavior must be seen as a threat to attaining your goal. Criticize only for constructive purposes. So the goddess of discernment is letting us know that instead of judging ourselves for what we need, instead of judging ourselves for doing something that is off the path of our obsession, of our passion, of our purpose, instead of judging ourselves, we get to use discernment. We get to witness. This isn't a moment for me to belittle or degrade myself for what I'm seeing myself really need right now that no one else can give me. I get to use my discernment to recognize when it is the moment and when it isn't the moment to do something that feels right for me and to give myself what I need that no one else can give me. Erzuli, goddess of sensitivity, in her heart is teaching us how to feel vulnerable. To get in touch with your true feelings, isolate yourself from your routine and from those around you who are sad, angry, or otherwise diseased. This is that withdraw energy. This is that death energy of allowing yourself to bundle up and form a chrysalis around the version of you that is changing and the version of your heart that is softening and strengthening at the same time. Protect your feelings from the insensitivity of others. Do not try to escape your sensitivity by altering your mood either through substance abuse or other addictive behavior. You may need the release of a good cry. And again, that sounds like the integration of how we've learned to accept that our emotions are sometimes explosive, especially when we haven't been giving them the space and the time of day to be what they are all the time. Sometimes we have to protect ourselves from the state of others or from our surroundings if they don't make us feel safe in being emotionally open. And for that reason, being in an isolated state and letting Taurus season guide you into that state of peace, peacefulness, peaceability, just that sense of calm and acceptance of yourself will guide you to whatever you need to binge, to integrate that experience of emotionality. Last but not least, Hecate, goddess of mysteries, is telling us that in our home we get to make big changes. Face your fear of the unknown. Fundamental changes must take place as you progress towards the goal you desire. The process has already started. The present moment is your point of power. Use your power to change now. You cannot change another, but the envy of good results often provokes change in even the most rigid. Again, if you're feeling a certain way, use the present moment, how you're feeling now, as your point of power. You've already learned how powerful you are, and it says the process has already started. Fundamental changes must take place as you progress toward the goal you desire. In our foundation, the goal we desire is to view the moments where we previously saw our tiredness or our desire to withdraw and go inward toward ourselves as a setback. We want to see that as, instead of a setback, an opportunity for integrating what feels right for the version of ourselves that we want to move forward with, that we want to be best friends with. That is the path of compassion. That is the path toward your power really showing you that what has been unknown about you, about the way that you can show up in the world, about the way that your ability to show up in the world is presented to others. What it's showing you is that what you feared about that unknown was actually preventing you from doing things even slightly differently. So you could learn, now I do know that I can show up this way, and now I do know that I cannot show up this way because it doesn't feel right for me, because it does feel right for me. The more that we settle into this foundation of dropping from our head into our full body, especially into our heart, allowing our full body to tell us what it needs, the more that we settle into that energy, the more that we get to experience the freedom of being perfect